Thanks for checking out this highlight from the Casually Hardcore podcast. If you want to check out the full podcast after the show, please be sure to hit the top link in the description. But now, let's do it. The biggest question that I think, and this is, I think, very interesting, especially with our guest here, does a Final Fantasy XIV player need to play the story? Is lore a requirement for enjoying Final Fantasy XIV? At this, the question is yours.
What would you expect me to say here? I just kind of like, obviously you guys had expectations bringing me on. Where do you think I would stand on this? Because I surprise a lot of people.
That's Chris's question. So Chris, do you want to answer him?
I really don't think you're going to stand outside of the traditional. If you like the game, that's great. That's beautiful. It would allow a deeper understanding if you want the lore, but it shouldn't be forced on anybody. I assume that's the traditional middle of the road response, and somebody falls either just light or just right, or just I don't expect you to be at a far end. What I do think is unique to you as far as inviting you on for this question, because this was one of the questions that like spun to this podcast. We talked to you about this like 2 months ago or something and said, we should talk to you after the showcase. And I think my perspective is that your perspective on it as somebody who spent so much time with the lore might offer more nuance to that response than what most of us do. So I think I'm expecting something, a beautifully worded way of the common response is what I'm expecting.
Okay.
I don't know if I just set a false expectation there.
No. So a lot of people are surprised when I try to kind of reel it back from people that do sort of, I guess, gatekeep in a way, saying like, if you're not paying attention to the story, if you're not enjoying the story, if you're not like digesting the lore, then you're not like playing the game right. Final Fantasy XIV is a theme park MMO. It delivers a lot of different kinds of content to a lot of different kinds of people. And I didn't start playing because of the story. And I would never play just for the story and just for the lore. There are a lot of people that like will play the new MSQ patch and like whatever other bits of story that they're interested in, and then like unsub and go somewhere else. I'm not one of those people. If I was not like engaged in raiding, like primarily, but you know, other kinds of content, I wouldn't keep coming back to 14. I started playing 14. I first got like really invested because of like the end game raid system, and that is what kind of like acted as a sort of doorway into this world for me. Right? Is that I was really engaging with this content in first coil, and then suddenly I was like, oh wow, you know, this world's like a lot larger and a lot more compelling than I had realized, and suddenly I'm sort of like inspired to kind of go digging deeper. And I think for most people, that's kind of how the game works, right? Is that most people are coming at it as MMORPG players, and they're getting to a certain point where the story has kind of got its hooks in them, and then you go back and sort of start digesting that. Is that fair to say? I mean, that's basically what's happening with you right now, Chris. Is like you played through Shadowbringers and you're like, wow, they've done a great job here. Let's kind of go back and see what more we can discover, right?
Let me follow that up with, would you say it would be advisable for those maybe to just start with Shadowbringers, and then if the Shadowbringers hooks them, go backwards?
So before Shadowbringers launch, Yoshida and Ishikawa and Koji and pretty much anyone that was getting interviewed by anyone was saying, Shadowbringers, we have written Shadowbringers so that it can stand alone as a story, so that you can have never paid attention, never played any of the other Final Fantasy XIV content, and still be like really engaged and really compelled by the Shadowbringers story. And I think that is true. I think they did a really, really, really good job there. Obviously, it's kind of like building off of stuff from previous expansions, and if you are, you know, if you've been around, if you're invested in that stuff, it's like more rewarding. But it does, like, it stands on its own 2 feet, right? And I think I don't know if I'd encourage people to start with Shadowbringers, but I think Shadowbringers is a lot more approachable. When you're trying to sell the story of Final Fantasy XIV, you don't talk about narrative beats from A Realm Reborn, or at least not from, like, you know, before 2.5, really. You're talking about, I mean, mostly it's stuff that happens in Shadowbringers, but like the common what people will commonly say is like, oh, it gets good from like Heaven's Ward. It gets really interesting. and you kind of try to use that to sell people on ARR and to sell people on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a mistake. I think using 14 story to try and sell people on 14 is a mistake, because if they're only coming in for the story, and if their expectation is I'm going to be playing this game just for the story, they're never going to make it to Shadowbringers. Like, even with the A Realm Reborn revamp, like, ARR is still a bit of a slog. It requires a huge amount of like investment and faith in this story before it really like starts to pay off for most people.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to sell 14 to people, like, I'll say, yeah, the story's great. Like, you shouldn't rush through the story. Don't think of it like, you know, World of Warcraft or like, you know, other MMOs where the object is just to get to end game as quickly as possible. But I will say, like, the end game raid scene is really good, is really healthy. It is an excellent theme park MMO, and like, whatever kind of content that you're into, you will find something that kind of delivers that to you, and you will reach a point, like, whatever kind of content you're doing, you will reach a point where you start to realize that like you're invested in these characters and you're invested in this story, and at that point you want to go back and like start paying attention, and suddenly A Realm Reborn will be a lot more digestible, a lot more valuable to you from that point. So is lore a requirement? No, absolutely not. If you treat lore as a requirement, if you treat lore as a prerequisite, you're going to be setting yourself up to fail.
So, follow-up, is lore a requirement if you're a content creator?
No. No, are you kidding me? How many content creators, like, how many of us jabronis give a damn about the lore? Like, not very many, right?
I asked because there was one, and he's no longer making content for 14, which is sad. But it was that his community eventually bullied him into making content and or into going and playing the story, and he was just about the raid scene, and then it's like, all right, and now no, he's all right, guys, I'm done with 14. Like, that's not what he was there for. He was there for the raids, and then it's like that mindset of you have to be playing the story, and it's and I completely agree with you. And then from the content creator side, we've seen a huge uptick in Chris's likability since he's been doing A Realm Revoice, since he's been doing this curiosity thing, and people have been like, it's truly fascinating. Just the like, Chris's likability was like, from the story was like low, and then it's like, hey guys, I'm doing ARR, and they're like, this is amazing. We finally got Chris to play the story. Anyway.
I do think that I am not promoting Shadowbringers. I am not promoting this is the order to watch the Star Wars movies in. I am not promoting that everybody should go through the path I've gone through. There's a lot painful about the path I'm going through. I'm trying to get those into words so I can put those videos out, because like, this is not the solution. It's a different way to go at it. But like, I'll see comments from time to time. They're like, this is weird. Like, you're going back and doing ARR on a new character now, and you did Shadowbringers, and you're talking to people about like ethos, about these big concepts, and like, this is a weird way to do this. Yeah. This was not the plan. I didn't pick up ARR when like, yeah, so here's my plan. I'm going to pick up the game. I'm going to play it for 2 or 3 years. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to get really invested. I'm going to learn to tank and change my total play style. I'm going to change myself from a WoW endgame raider to a casual player. I'm going to wait until I go into full-time content creation. And then I'm going to go back and like, it was not the plan. This is something that each step has been, what do I want to do next? What have my goals shifted to? And that's how I ended up here. And the game happens to have a path for that. And so I think that's what people forget, is that like, there isn't a right way to play 14. There's just a whole lot of weird ways. Like, it is just as weird to me as the way I'm doing it to only play from 5.0 to 5.1 and then come back at 5.5 and play till 6.1. That is just as weird to me. It's not wrong. There are people that do that. They come in from the 0.5 to the 0.1 and they're gone. They play 3 to 4 months out of a 2-year cycle. And that's not wrong. There are people that say, I have 4 houses and all I do is glamour. That's weird. I G-pose. I was so excited for Explore Mode. That's weird. It's odd. Like, I don't get it. It's awesome. And like, when I see content made about it, I'm like, I've never even thought about it. Like, they're like, oh yeah, and I'm using these stickers and here's these amazing screenshots. Like, it's never crossed my mind. It's not wrong. It's just there's a whole lot of weird ways to play this game.
So Ventus 77777777 says, so Ethos, are you going to go into Larry's anima and Emmett's theory?
Jeez. Do you guys really want me to do this?
It's up to you.
Is this getting into spoiler?
Yeah. Minus spoiler. Let's say minus spoiler.
We're at that point in the podcast anyway. Okay. If you're 37 minutes in.
So Larry and I were having a conversation on Stay the Realm last week about anima. Anima in Final Fantasy X is, Final Fantasy X, spoiler for, those of you who haven't played it, nearly 20 years old now. I know. I just had like a moment. I just had a sinking moment of existential dread when I realized that Final Fantasy X is nearly 20 years old. Oh my.
I've been playing.
That's my favorite entry.
I've been playing this game for 10 years. So let's just it's a decade. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll give you that. So all right, in Final Fantasy X, Anima is Seymour's mother that has been, transformed into his Eidolon. What do they call them? Aeons. Aeon. Yeah. That's the one. Right. So Larry had this idea that, hey, maybe Anima is like Varys's mum. Or Xenos's mum, Varys's mum, I think.
We haven't seen any of their mums.
And that she was transformed into Anima through the harrowing process of copulating with an Ascian, to put it politely.
Is this a fanfic theory?
I'm sure it probably is by now. If it's not, then it will be very soon. You'll have to ask Larry about that. So Ventus is messing with you.
That's awesome.
But thanks.
Oh, I love it. I figured it was some kind of inside joke.
I hate it.
You hate it so much. I hope that you really enjoyed that highlight, and I hope that you check out the full podcast. Again, link is in the description. Thanks for being here, and hope you have a fantastic day, you wonderful, beautiful individual.